And so the deal of it is we must stop looking at them as the authority that we're assuming them to be. And if many of these so-called black leaders have been telling our people the truth instead of wasting their time and energy with race arguments and false marches and praying, etc., and taking millions of energy notes from them and reestablishing their proper status, many of these economic problems that we're suffering from right now wouldn't exist, and you wouldn't have to be begging Rome for a job under the condition that you allow them to genocide you. However, in principle of the de facto, though it's still de facto, Supreme Court declared that no, they cannot do that. It makes them suable. However, this is again why we must reestablish our proper venue of diversity of nationality so that we can have proper venue of courts and sue them for these activities, which has not been the case and has not been going on. So therefore, it is important for our people to become competent to do so.
All right, here's the question. Ask Georgia Crew wants me to ask you about the book, I guess, Exemplar of Liberty. Are you familiar with that? Exemplar of Liberty.
What, they think that you have it or what?
I don't know. They said ask you about the book,
No.
Exemplar of Liberty. I do have a book though I want to share.
Yeah.
Here, since we're talking about books, here, I want to highly hold that up. Highly
share with you.
It's called Musical Truth. It's by Mark Devlin. Let them see the side. Let them see how thick it is. Sideways. It's a thick book. Don't let it. It talks about the music industry from a perspective of a DJ who realized how the music industry was being used. It changed and how what it deals with all of the stuff we're talking about and more.
All the platforms.
Don't think it's about music. As a matter of fact, there's Musical Truth and Musical Truth 2. I got both books, but you have to start with this one. If you're on Scrib, Scrib.com, it is on Scrib, but you told me to start getting books again.
Yes.
So this is an amazing book that I highly recommend. So that's a little segue. Let me see if there's any more. Someone asked, can you reclaim your status even with open criminal cases?
Your status is basic in right. I mean, what I would suggest immediately as we're presenting to answer this question is study carefully the distinction between rights and privileges so that your concepts of what rights and privileges are. Study carefully what birthright is, that which is nature's right, meaning that your bloodline being of Moorish Canaanite, Moabite Canaanite blood is a natural divine fact. Historically, by descendancy, collectively on the earth, Midgard, particularly in the Western Hemisphere, and a particular fact is those who have been falsely designated as Negroes, blacks, and coloreds and Indians in the Western Hemisphere are in fact Moors, i.e. they are actually Phoenicians, etc. That's a fact. So when you're talking about anything relative to your status, you must be in proper person, i.e. to even have standing relative to a state. So when you're talking about a state, you're talking about rights, the duties, the capacities, and the incapacities that any being has in relationship to organized state government, etc., and to society as a whole. And I think once you study that, you will answer your own question, which is what our desire is for you and for everyone who's listening to this broadcast.
So on that note, if someone does have an open case and they do declare their nationality in the interim, so and they make an appearance.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. This must be comprehended that the political platforms, the judicial political platforms that they have you in, is a fraudulent platform. They have no jurisdiction, factually. But de facto, they're taking jurisdiction. Are we clear? Much of the work that you see going on with active Moors, with the activation of,
Yes.
the restoration of, the diversity of nationality, the Article 3, Section 2, constitutional enforcement of the judicial powers pre-established yet adopted for the United States, which should be by law enforced and are by law in place but not activated, is what we should all be seeking to activate. That is the venue that should be activated on your behalf. They already know that unlawfully they have no right to neutralize your status. That is in fact what you call human trafficking. This is again why we've been encouraging Moors for years to activate the Constitution. If you're activating the Constitution, you're activating the consular venue, because the fact that they have no jurisdiction is established fact. That's not an opinion. They're doing human trafficking,
and we've seen very recently how when that is exercised, they know.
Yeah,
if you know, then it works.
Now,
but if you don't know,
right?
I've seen it. And if you don't know, they'll take advantage of the fact that you don't know.
Let's look at this, Dr. Naila. And you learned this recently yourself by seeing stuff that many of these people don't see.
Right.
Right. However, so you don't have to be convinced of it because you've seen it for yourself.
Absolutely.
However, the fact that you see it makes it clear that people who've had this information have not been teaching it.
Right.
And if they've not been teaching it, they're enemies to the cause.
Makes sense to me.
It's called sellout.
Makes sense to me. Very.
And they spend more time attacking it, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Now you understand their motives. See, this is what I'm saying earlier, and I'm saying again, Dr. Naila. Once you learn some of these things for yourself, you don't have to see you can see why the divisions are there, because you'll see there's what? Unconstitutional people who are pretending to be helping our people when they're in it to fill their pockets.
Case in point, when we had the event on the 27th,
Mm-hmm.
some Moors flew in using their nationality cards,
which is the right thing to do,
and others were denied.
Exactly, which means the different jurisdictions, right? The different political jurisdictions. Some are starting to do what Donald Trump is doing, enforcing the Republic law, Constitution, and treaties, and some of them are still enforcing de facto color of law under the Klan, etc., usually under the Democratic Party, right? Of color of law. So that's a conflict with them going on too, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Fighting over our state, isn't it? Oh, however, it doesn't make him special.
No.
If you get the point.
No, it does not.
But you need to understand the politics. Once you understand, and this is the thing, Dr. Naila, once you understand these principles, you can look at the politics with a clearer and unbiased mind. It's not a matter of taking sides, it's a matter of taking principle. But understand this, and this is the other thing that many of you need to understand and comprehend. While a lot of, and we've always said to the people, a lot of things we're doing now will not be doing later. And the reason we're telling you this is because you need to be aware of the obligations and duties that pre-exist. However, to tell you ahead of time so you don't get confused, these political platforms that you see are not going to be existing in the future any damn way. However, you need to know who's been taking you for a ride so you can stop cooperating and stop consenting to the Admiralty maritime piracy on the land operations of Unum Sanctum, thinking these people are your government. They are not. Nor the people who keep on pretending that they have dedicated association with these people to help you. They're not. They're criminal activists, and they're leeches among your own. However, the rest of the nations are starting to reject them. So the deal of it is that whether our people decide to get active or not, the systems around you are going to collapse anyway. This is the pain that we're talking about earlier, Dr. Naila.
Mm-hmm.
The people who've been pretending they don't understand this information, they can keep on pretending. And those who don't get it is going to be fodder. This is what I was talking about 18, 20 years ago around the corner.
Well, here's a question from Asa Simon Bay. If Taj, patriot colonists who speak on economics reveal true history exposing stolen birthright from copper natives, how will they save themselves economically if they are foreigners or pilgrims?
See, the benefit of the hybrid Europeans that were here are under treaty and constitution. This is why you see a lot of them. A lot of the hybrid Europeans are telling the truth now. You'll see a lot of websites where hybrid Europeans are starting to tell the true history of what's going on here. They may not be telling it all, but they're telling enough to wake up most of the people that didn't know anything. Why? Because they recognize they're being sacrificed by the Satanists that they've been calling their government. And that's the truth. So things we've been telling people for 39, 40 years ago, you see a lot of hybrid Europeans commonly talking about now. And I don't have the name of it, and many of them, they're being prominently shared around the internets and the different websites all day long.
Lance, bad influence, McCoy says, can you ask if you've heard of the Land, Air, and Water Bureau? That's law. That's what law stands for, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Land, Air, and Water.
And water. That is law. That's
law.
That's the estate. That is the estate.
Here's a Yodi Joe comment. This comment says that Mesopotamia equals the Potomac River Basin.
And that too, yes. That's true, yeah.
Here's Massive God Squad said, I had a fake so-called judge tell me in traffic court, we have no jurisdiction over more. This is dismissed.
And because he doesn't, because he's not a judge. He is an administrative clerk under bankruptcy of the defunct United States of America Corporation that went sine die in 1861, which I opened up with. Now, there you go. Some will tell the truth and some won't. Because just like anything else, people who have been operating criminally on the land for decades, and actually for the last century or more, which you will see the Pope Francis spoke about in his letter to Barack H. Obama. It's not like this stuff is secret. It's not hidden. It's just that you see people don't want to get into it because they recognize that many people that they've trusted or they've been following around or paying them hundreds of notes for so-called education, that they just simply sucking off the people's injury rather than bluntly telling them the truth, that the truth alone will bring the people together to just fix this thing. The people stop supporting it, it gets fixed. It's sort of like if you have a broken window and you put the glass in the window, the wind and the rain stops coming in. It's that complicated, but yet that simple at the same time. If the people would have enforced the Constitution and treaties, we wouldn't be in this situation we're in, economically, socially, and politically. It is that complicated, yet that simple. That's why you see me being redundant on those principles. We could talk about a lot of things, metrology. We could talk about tile cross. We could talk about the salt of the earth, all of which we have talked about over the years. But the deal of it is, you don't fix the basis of where you're being injured, all of the rest of the stuff is like out the window. Like Jack and Jill going up the hill with a pail that has holes in the bottom. Fix the pail before you go up the hill, because you ain't bringing no water back down. It ain't happening. This is really what's happening to us. And I think because of the complexities and the injuries that are happening to the people people come into this movement as opportunists, you know, pretending they're really helping the people and they have the answers, but you don't never see them put their necks out on the people on principle. You see them trying to get into people's pockets and make the people followers, which I reject.
It's a question.
Tell the people the truth. Give them the opportunity to take responsibility. Encourage them to take responsibility and teach accordingly. But don't try to rate them or make a living off of them while doing it. I'm not saying that a servant ain't worthy of his hire, but you parasites need to quit it.
What Marvin Green asks, what about taking the steps of getting birth certificate authentication?
A birth certificate means trade. This is the deal. That's their instrumentality. It's not yours. And while the argument is presented in principle, in moral principle, of becoming executor holder of the instrument, they will never give you that instrument with the allonges, and they never do, never did. My issue is, like the rest of the nations of states, rebut them, rebuke them, and all their instrumentalities become moot, which is really what's happening, because the nations of the world is rejecting their bonds that have been based in the birth certificates and the marriage certificates, etc. And so no matter how many times they produce those bodily instruments, they can no longer sell them. This is why you see that their banking system is collapsing. That has much to do with it. They already knew the fiat was a fraud from the door. It's no new discovery to them. It's just a new discovery to people who didn't know that these people were organized criminals that they were calling government. They're imposters. But you must accept that, and you must start acting accordingly and treating them accordingly, and stop letting them treat you like you have an obligation to rectify a fraud that they created. Keep this in mind. I suggest that all of you look up seriously in Bouvier's and Black's Law Dictionaries and Bell's Law Dictionary, all the law dictionaries, color of law, color of office. Color of office creates no authority, and it creates no obligation on the part of the people. And creates no authority. See, when the people get tired of the pain that these hybrids are putting on them, they'll start rejecting them. At that point, that's when they lose their power. The people keep putting their faith and requesting these people as if they're your government. They never were. They are not. They're organized criminals and human traffickers. And the instrumentalities that they create are created in straw, in fraud, and they will remain in fraud forever. Except that we keep on sanctioning their frauds, thinking that we're going to get a benefit.
Here's one question. They say DC Incorporated, not USA. I read the act of Congress that passed the articles, and there seems to be contradictory language. Can you address this?
Yes, because DC is the United States of America Corporation. So is the IMF, the United States Corporation. So is the Federal Reserve, the United States Corporation. So is the Jesuit Order, the United States Corporation. So is the Bishopric of Rome. They are all one in the name, multi-corporate construct, etc. And all the three-letter agencies are all U.S. corporation. The deal with they give you different names to rate you on different levels, and you think that they're different jurisdictions when they actually all are the Pope of Rome and what they may call the 11 Roman ruling families. 12 up to 13 of them, right? Ruling families who have been under the unum sanctum operations ruling the world secretly. under Satanist platforms known as secret societies, Thule Society, Tavistock, Daughters of American Revolution, Kyklos, Ku Klux Klan, Knights of Columbus, etc. All forms of pseudo masonry, which they have contaminated.
Here's a question. Rob Riella Bay asks, how does a Moor change his national status with a Job and have the SSN removed?
Basically, you can do what is known is a notice of name correction, or what you call appellation correction. And keep in mind, this is back to notes that we made years ago in the book Nomen Substantivum, because people have also been tricked by colored people among our own, thinking that you have to go to the de facto court venues to correct your name, etc., which actually puts it back into their false jurisdiction. This is why people must know first, when you're looking at any of this information, is that the people who have you been traditionally looking up or looking at as government are not government. And if you don't absorb that fact, you're going to continue to process incorrectly. This is again why you must activate and organize socially and politically among yourselves. And your proper venue for communicating with them is a consulate venue. That's a fact. And it's not something that we thought of. That's the established rule of law.
Here's a question. I think that's this last one. Can a private member association protect your estate?
No, yes and no in a sense. Because you want to be private, but they have assumed you to be public property because they've already made you as stock through marriage certificates, birth certificates, or car registrations, marriage licenses, etc., Social Security, CUSIC numbers, all of these instrumentalities, and even with their census, they're trying to rebond the people